All right, welcome back. We are now on the first question type of the listening section. So congratulations on making it through the reading section. So let's get started with the listening section. Now, the first question type is the main idea question. And just as with the reading section in this course and all of our TOEFL Excellence courses, when we say question type 1, it doesn't necessarily mean question 1. Now, with this one, the main idea question, as it states in the official video summary, this will always be the first question in the exam. But our numbering of question type 1, question type 2 does not mean it will be the first or the second, third question, just like in the reading section. It's mostly numbered this way in the order of either most important or most frequently occurring. Now, the main idea question, as it's stated in the official video from the makers of the exam, this will always be the first question. Now, down here it says you will have 0 to 1 main idea questions. Now, what that means is you might not get one of these main idea questions on every listening passage or listening file, audio file, but you will get them on at least one. And so that means if you do not get a main idea question, you will have a purpose question, and we will get to that one in another video. So the skills and abilities that you need for this first question type in the listening section, and this is the most important one, is the ability to focus. This is incredibly essential because you're going to be in a room full of other people taking the exam at the same time. And depending on what type of testing center this is, it could be a language school, it could be a U.S. embassy, it could be just a business that has a bunch of computers. It depends on the country that you're in and the city that you're in. So it's possible that the room is not going to be really all that quiet. And maybe the headphones that they give you won't be the best headphones. So you might have to actually put your hands over your ears and to hold the headphones to your head, and maybe even just close your eyes to basically help you to sort of ignore everything else around you so that you can focus on the audio file. So the ability to focus is the most important thing for the entire listening section. As always, you will have to have at least an intermediate level of English skills and vocabulary. As stated in all of the reading section videos, you can learn more about vocabulary for the TOEFL exam by clicking any word that says vocabulary in this or any of the courses. That will take you to the Give Me Some English TOEFL vocabulary database, and that will provide you with a way of expanding your vocabulary in a way that's actually going to be beneficial for you, rather than doing some of these books on essential words for the TOEFL. Those types of books are pretty much useless. So you can expand your vocabulary there. Now, with the main idea question, or what they call the gist question, you have to basically figure out what the main idea of the audio file actually is. In other words, what's the most important thing that they're talking about. Now, we use the term gist, which means the general idea. Now, in the main official video from the makers of the exam, they refer to this as a gist purpose and gist content questions. Now, I really don't like those terms. As you might have noticed from some of my other videos, I really don't like the terms that they use for a lot of the different question types, because it doesn't necessarily give you any idea of what you're doing, and therefore it could cause some confusion as to what is the actual purpose of the question type. So the gist purpose question, what they refer to that's not the main idea. The gist content, well, I guess that's the main idea, but he says here that gist means the main idea. That's not what gist means. Gist is a word which means the general overall idea of something, and that's what you're looking for. The main idea is the overall general idea of the entire listening file, the audio file that you're going to be listening to. So you'll have to be able to determine which details are important and which are not. And you'll also have to be able to identify keywords and phrases. Now, luckily with this one, they will usually tell you almost directly what is the main idea, with phrases such as, today we're going to be talking about, and then they mention whatever the subject is, because these are mimicking the types of conversations or lectures that you would experience in a university situation. Now, one of the tricks that they use with these types of passages, sometimes in the beginning of the audio file, they might say something like, last week we discussed blah, blah, blah. And then they talk about some subject. That's not the main idea because they said last week. And then after that, they usually follow it up with some more information and then say, today we're going to be talking about. So you have to listen for those types of keywords and phrases. Today we're going to be talking about, this week we're going to focus on those types of things. Those phrases are going to preface the actual answer for this question type. So just as a side note, in the entire listening section, you do not have control over the audio file. Once it starts playing, it will continue to play. You can't stop it. You can't go back. You can't redo anything. So you have to be ready once this section starts to start taking your notes. And the reason for this course and these lessons is to show you exactly what each of the question types is like, so that once you get to this part, you will know what information to look for. So the main idea question, that's always going to be the first question, and usually the information that will give you the answer for this is stated in the very beginning of the audio file. Just listen for those key words and key phrases that tell you what the actual answer to that question is. The question stems will usually look something like this. What was the main topic of the professor's lecture? What was the conversation mainly about? What was the general idea of the conversation? These are all examples of question stems that would be this main idea question. As I mentioned before, if you do not have a main idea question, then you will have a motivational purpose question, and we will talk about that in another video coming very soon. So this is an example of what the question type will look like. What was the main idea that the professor was trying to express about Nikola Tesla? Now, another thing which is also different from the reading section is that reading the answer choices is not really going to help you. Because with the listening section, you listen to an audio file, and then after the audio file has played, you have to answer each question. With the reading section, they give you a question and they show a portion of the reading passage, and you can use that to find your answers. With the listening section, you have to just listen to the entire audio file and then answer all of the different question types. So the answer choices are not going to help you in the same way that they are in the reading section, because you will have to either rely on your notes or your memory to find the correct answer here. And perhaps your notes might be a little bit different than the ideas that they come up with here, but we'll discuss that in a strategy video. Now, another thing I want to mention about the listening section is that when you're listening to the audio file, you will always have some sort of picture that looks like this or something like it. There'll be a student and another person talking, or there'll be a student in a classroom, or a student speaking to some other person. This picture or any of the pictures in this section are not going to help you in any way to answer the questions, and they do not give you any other information about what they're talking about. Here, it's just going to be, obviously, there'll be a student who is a woman and another person who is a man that are speaking. Now, they're in an office, so maybe this is a counselor, or there's a ball and some trophies, so maybe this person has to do with athletics. But that information is not going to help you to answer the questions at all. So if looking at the picture is going to be a distraction for you when you're listening to the audio file, just don't even look at it. Focus on your notes. Look at the piece of paper that you have in front of you and listen to the audio file and take notes on the reading passage. That's going to be the most important thing for you. So the pictures do not help you in any way. All right, so let's take a look at some of the examples. Now here, obviously, we can't really look at a reading passage, and I'm not going to play the audio file for you here again because if you're in one of the courses here at TOEFL Excellence, you can play the audio file, and that will be a good example of the type of listening file that you will have in the exam. And then you have your question stem, what does the professor mainly discuss, and the different answer choices. So if you're in this course, these examples here are so that you can listen to a typical audio file from the listening section. Now, this is the entire length. As you can see, this is 5 minutes, 18 seconds. The answer to this question type is probably going to be within the first 10 seconds of the listening file, maybe even in the first 5 seconds. So that is an example. Of course, there are other examples here, but they're not really going to give you any more information about it. But that's essentially it for the main idea question. You have to be ready to take your notes when you are listening to the audio file. As soon as you hear someone say something like, today we're going to talk about, I'd like to discuss anything where they mention what they're going to be talking about, that's probably the main idea. So write down whatever it is that they say. And that will be the actual main idea that they're asking about. And that's pretty much it for this question type. So we will see you in the next lesson.